Sullivan's Crossing just confirmed the most significant behind-the-scenes shakeup in the show's entire run. Roma Roth is stepping down as showrunner. Floyd Kane is coming in as the new showrunner and head writer for season 5. And the moment that news landed, the conversation that has been quietly running through every fan forum and comment section since the beginning of season 4 became impossible to avoid any longer. Could this be the opening that brings Scott Patterson back to the crossing? Let's talk about all of it. Why season 4 struggled in a way that made a creative reset genuinely necessary. What Sully's exit actually cost this show, and why no one else filled the space he left. What Floyd Kane coming in as new showrunner actually means for a series that has been one of the most reliable comfort watches on the CW. And whether Scott Patterson returning is something that is actually possible or just the thing we all want to be true, because season 4 made us miss him so much. First, the showrunner change. Because I want to be honest about what this means before anything else, Roma Roth has been with Sullivan's Crossing since the beginning. She built this show from the ground up. She understood the Robin Carr source novels well enough to translate them into television. She assembled the cast. She established the rhythms and the tone and the specific quality of warmth that made the first 3 seasons feel like exactly the kind of show you watch when the world is too loud and you need somewhere quiet and safe to land. And now she is stepping down. And I honestly think the most important word in that sentence is stepping down rather than being removed. This reads like a creative decision rather than a disciplinary one. A showrunner recognizing that the show needs a different perspective than the one she can currently offer and choosing to hand the keys to someone new rather than push through another difficult season. Floyd Kane is coming in as that someone new. And what he walks into is not a failing show. The series remains a genuine hit in Canada, a reliable performer on the CW, and an international success through Netflix, and cancellation was never realistically on the table for any of this. What he walks into is a show that has drifted from the thing that made it work. And that is actually a more interesting problem to solve than simple low ratings, because it requires understanding what was lost rather than just fixing what is broken. And what was lost has a name. Harry Sullivan. Sully. When Scott Patterson left Sullivan's Crossing after season 3, the fan reaction was a collective sigh. One of those specific fan community responses where grief and frustration exist in equal measure and neither one fully cancels the other out. Because Sully was not simply a character on this show. He was the show's reason to care about everyone else. He was the campground and the community and the warmth and the particular quality of belonging that Sullivan's Crossing offered to the people who passed through it and to the audience watching at home. He was the person who connected all the other characters to each other and reminded viewers why this small town in Nova Scotia mattered in the first place. Without him, the show had to work twice as hard to generate the emotional grounding it once produced effortlessly. And based on what season 4 delivered, it could not. Season 4 traded Sully in for Liam, and the show never found a compelling replacement for what Patterson provided. The series leaned more heavily into conflict and personal drama without giving those storylines the same emotional foundation that Sully's presence had always supplied. The result was a season that felt busier, but not necessarily more engaging. Characters who had been complex and specific and warm in earlier seasons felt flattened in season 4. Shows of the people we met back when the show was still finding its confidence in season 1. There was more happening. It hit harder, it resolved less, and the absence of the person who used to make all of those outcomes feel like they mattered was felt in almost every single episode. And the handling of his departure made it worse. Sully was sent to Ireland. That was the in-story explanation for why he was gone. An off-screen trip to Ireland with no emotional weight given to the departure, no real reckoning with what it meant for Maggie to have her father absent from the place that bears their family's name. TV Fanatic called the exit explanation abysmal, and the fandom largely agreed. What should have been a difficult, emotionally honest goodbye to a pivotal character was instead waved away with a transatlantic flight and a storyline the show never really came back to. And Patterson himself appeared frustrated, not with leaving, but with the way leaving was framed. The narrative that his exit was entirely his own decision, and that his concerns about how the show was handling its ensemble were not publicly addressed left a specific kind of wound. Not just in him, but between him and a show that he clearly cared about deeply. So the question is whether a new showrunner changes any of that. And I honestly think the answer is it depends entirely on what Floyd Kane does first. If Kane comes in and the first thing he signals is a genuine recommitment to the quieter, character-driven storytelling that made Sullivan's Crossing such a comforting watch in its early seasons, less shock, more warmth, less plot mechanics, more emotional specificity, then the door for Patterson opens. Not because he is owed his job back, but because a show that has publicly recommitted to the thing he cared about most creates a context in which his return makes creative sense, rather than feeling like a retreat to something that did not work. TV Fanatic put it well. Less really is more with a show like Sullivan's Crossing. The show works best when it trusts its characters to carry quiet scenes. When a conversation between Maggie and Sully on the porch of the main lodge can hold an audience for 5 minutes without a plot development attached to it. When the community of the crossing itself, the regulars, the passers-through, the rhythms of a place that is specific enough to feel real, is treated as the drama rather than merely the backdrop for it. Season 4 forgot that. And a new showrunner who understands it is the first prerequisite for everything else. Virgin River is the comparison that keeps coming up in this conversation. Not because the shows are identical. They are not, but because Virgin River went through a similar creative struggle after its 4th season, and a change in creative leadership genuinely revived it without dismantling what made it beloved. The show found its warmth again. It recommitted to its characters, and the audience came back. Sullivan's Crossing has the same potential. The cast is still there. Morgan Kohan is still Maggie. Chad Michael Murray is still Cal. The ensemble that made the first 3 seasons work is largely intact. What it needs is a showrunner who knows how to use them. Whether Scott Patterson would come back under those conditions is a genuinely open question. TV Fanatic's Paul Daly, who broke this story on July 9, said plainly that he does not think Patterson would want to return after the way his exit was handled. And I think that's probably the honest read of where things stand right now. A man who felt his departure was misrepresented and his professional concerns were dismissed is not waiting by the phone for a call he was not expecting. But television is a long game. And if Floyd Kane spends season 5 rebuilding the show's identity so thoroughly that it becomes recognizable again as the Sullivan's Crossing that audiences fell in love with, If Sully's absence is treated with the weight it actually deserves instead of being written around with Ireland, then the conversation between the show and Patterson becomes at least possible, in a way it clearly has not been since season 3 ended. I want to say something about the fan response to all of this because it has been remarkably consistent. One comment under the TV Fanatic article says it about as plainly as anyone could. Season 4 really sucks. Sully made the show. He was funny and appealing as one of the leads. Season 4 has been boring and uneventful. Please bring Sully back. That is one comment from one person. But the fact that it captures precisely what the critical consensus has been saying for months tells you the fan community and the critics are reading this show the same way, which almost never happens. And when a show produces that kind of unified response from both audiences, it is usually because something genuinely important to its identity has gone missing. Sullivan's Crossing Season 5 is confirmed. Floyd Kane is the new showrunner. Roma Roth is stepping down. No premiere date has been announced, but based on previous season patterns, the show typically returns in late winter or early spring on the CW. Seasons 1 through 4 are available on Netflix internationally for anyone who needs to catch up. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Sullivan's Crossing can find its way back to what made it great in season 5? And do you want Scott Patterson back enough that you believe it can actually happen? Because after 4 seasons of this show, 3 brilliant and 1 genuinely disappointing, I honestly think the foundation is still there. Someone just needs to clear the debris and let it breathe again.